This is a 5th grade lesson on color mixing on a color wheel. Today we're going to be mixing from red to blue. The things that my students will need are a palette, right here, a paintbrush, a paper towel, a cup of water, a blue tray, and their color wheel for painting on. The colors that I've filled my palette with are red, blue, and white. So we're going to start over here with the red, and if the red's not done, they would do the red and then mix the tint of red. And then next we're going to be moving on to the red violet. To start a red violet, I'm going to take my brush in the red. It's pretty full of red, and move it to another space in the palette. I'm trying to make red violet. So that means more red than blue because I'm closer to red. So I'm going to take just a little bit of blue because blue is such a powerful color. Dip that in there. I'm even going to wipe it off because I can always take more blue later. And then I'm going to mix this up here. Just a little bit of blue in there. Now it still looks pretty red in my palette, so I'm going to take just a tiny bit more off the edge and mix that up. And I can always test it either on the outside here or right inside of my color wheel. I think I need just a little bit more blue. Mix that up here. It looks like I have a nice red violet now. I'm going to take that, and right inside of this part is where the pure color is going to go, the part that doesn't have any white mixed into it. Carefully paint that. And then before I wash my brush, I'm going to dip in the corner of my white, and right on top of the palette here, I'm going to be mixing up a tint. And I'm mixing that color until I don't see any swirls of red and I don't see any swirls of white. So go ahead here, and I'm going to paint right inside that little piece. And then I would wash my brush. So I'm swishing the brush, just gently brushing it on the bottom of the cup. I always swipe the side like this, swipe, swipe, so that I don't get any splatters on my painting. And then you really want to pinch your brush dry. Pinch it really dry. The water in your paints are going to make them really translucent. So I really want my brush to be dry before I start the next color. So we're moving from red to blue on our color wheel. The next color we're going to make is violet. So I'm going to take red on my brush again. Move it into a space over here, taking kind of a lot of red, not a lot, but I mean a whole paintbrush full at least. And then I'm going to take another little bit of blue. Again, the blue is powerful, so I can always add more. And I'm getting about the same color, so I'm going to take a little more blue. And I'm mixing those two colors until I start to see a violet, like a purple. Still looking like it's pretty red. So I need to add more blue. Add just a little bit of blue at a time, because once you add too much blue, you'll have a blue violet and it's really hard to go backwards. So I'm going to mix this here. I'm going to go ahead and try it out and see what that looks like on my color wheel. And it looks still a little bit maybe red, so I'm going to add a tiny bit more blue. And I'm really mixing that up. Keep adding just a tiny bit at a time. Okay. And now that I think I have a nice purple, when you feel like you do, you go ahead and paint right inside this part. Pretty dark on the camera. It's a nice purple that I have here. Now I still have the violet on my brush. I'm going to dip in the white and somewhere on my palette mix the white with the violet, and it should be making a light color, a light purple, like a lavender. So then I'm going to very carefully paint right in here and wash my brush. My brush is clean and dry, so I'm going to move on next to the blue violet. I have a violet right here, and I'm going to stay away from that white. I'm going to take blue on my brush and move it over to the violet. I'm adding blue to the violet, which should make a blue violet. So I'm going to make sure I get that color down inside of that palette space. I'm staying away from the white. If I get the white inside of it, it makes it a tint. And I'm not making a tint. I'm making the pure color. I'm going to add more blue. Because again, I'm making a blue violet. So it should be more blue than red, or more blue than purple. So that looks pretty good. So I'm going to paint that color right in here. Now with the blue violet on my brush, I'm going to take white and make a tint of the blue violet, really mixing it up till I don't see any swirls of color. Shouldn't see swirls of blue violet or of white. And then I've got that pure color right here. Or the tint right here. I'm going to paint that tint right inside that little triangle. And then I would wash my brush and finish with blue. So I'm going to dry my brush off. Put it in the blue. The pure blue would go right here. Now with blue on my brush, I'm going to take some white and make a tint of blue. And that goes right here in that spot. Now it would be time for cleanup for my students. For their brush, they can just give it a quick rinse in their water and then put it in the first sink. Their water cup goes in the second sink. They dump it down, fill it with clean water once, dump that out, and put it upside down on the drying rack. The palettes go upside down in the last sink. If you have enough paper towel, you can really carefully just get some of that extra paint out. The paper towel goes in the garbage. The palettes go on the drying rack from the bottom to the top. Then we will wash tables. Your hands will be the last things that are washed. This is a 5th grade lesson on color mixing from red to blue.